Welcome back again to the Social Entrepreneurship in Africa podcast, where we engage in stimulating conversations with leading social entrepreneurs who are making a positive impact across the continent. I am your host, Dr. Joyce Tamale, the co-founder and CEO of Capital Solutions Limited. Today's theme is about creating an enabling environment for children with special needs in Uganda. We are honored to have Ms. Florence Namaganda, the Executive Director of Mukisa Foundation, and we'll be discussing the creation of a sustainable environment for children with special needs. And Florence will share more about her incredible journey and the work she has done with Mukisa Foundation. We are greatly honored to have her, and you're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joyce.
Right. So as we delve into our conversation, it's going to be a very exciting conversation. Please listen in, and we hope this story will be able to inspire your journey to social entrepreneurship. Florence, can you tell the listeners about yourself, your education background, and your career?
So, yes, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm excited to be here with you, wonderful ladies. And I hope that my story will in some way ignite some young people to join into the entrepreneurial journey. My name, as just said, I'm Florence Namaganda. I'm a neuropediatric therapist by profession, and my journey started like everyone who does sciences, especially biology and chemistry in school. They hope to become doctors, so that I wasn't an exception. I thought I would do general medicine. Sadly, when the results came out, I was short by 2 points, and I had to, if I wanted to do medicine, I would have to do privately, and my family couldn't afford private tutorship. So because of that, I was given a course called physiotherapy, and I cried myself to sleep every day for some time because I didn't want to do anything else but medicine. But now I'm very excited that I'm where I am, because physiotherapy is what led me to this journey. After physiotherapy, I went on to study neuropediatrics in the UK, and thereafter I did basic to advanced sitting courses in South Africa. Yes, so that's my education background. And along the way, I've done also other courses in behavior management, because our children, the children that we take care of, usually have problems with behavior. So I've done what they call applied behavior analysis. Yes, that is my education journey.
Oh, interesting journey. God never makes any mistakes. By the time He chose you that path, He knew that you're going to be incredible and turning around communities in the world. Thank you very much. Please share with the listeners about your organization and its mission to support children with special needs.
So yes, Mukisa Foundation. Mukisa means blessing in Luganda. And the reason for that is maybe I'll just paint the picture of the space that we work in. In Uganda and in many other African countries, we have a lot of myths and beliefs and attitudes towards disability. Most of them negative, most of them cause social exclusion as well as neglect and abuse for children with disability. So, for example, many people believe that if you have a child with disabilities, you have been cursed, or you're being punished for sin, or you have been bewitched, or you may have sacrificed your child to get in exchange for wealth. So because of these negative beliefs, people tend to attach so much to these children, and result, parents don't seek help, that parents hide their children, they're embarrassed, they're ashamed, there's a lot of blame, family breakup. So there's a lot surrounding these children. And therefore, we decided to create an enabling environment for them, and we started with a name saying Mukisa, as in every child is a blessing. We wanted to tell that story, that there is no child who is created by accident, no child is created as a curse. So when I joined physio school, the first day of my physiotherapy education is when I first saw children with disabilities. And like anyone else who had never seen them before, I was scared. I had so many questions. I was wondering what was wrong with these children. Why can't they walk? Why aren't they able to do things like any other children? And why are they in hospital at 6 a.m.? And the more I go to hear, most parents were saying the things I told you about, because they are cursed, because they are scared of their neighbors judging them. They come at 6 a.m. to seek help, and they would stay at the center until late at night so that they could sneak their children back into their homes. And that was a very sad thing, because nobody should have a child that they're ashamed of. So from then on, I purposed that I wanted to do something about the situation. And the more I learned in physio school, the more I focused on anything to do with children. So I did a lot of neurology, a lot of pediatric interventions. And eventually, when I finished, I decided to start working with children immediately. And I started a 1-month show, which didn't have a name then, but it was home-based care. So I would go to individual homes of children. And I had picked out 5 children. So I would go to their individual homes and work on them and teach the parents what to do and help them understand what their children had. Eventually, we got our first funding a year later, and I was able to open up a center and register an organization, which is now Mukisa Foundation. So the 6 children who had turned 8 by then were the first children that we looked after. And when we opened the center, they quickly became 20, quickly became 100, and now we are serving over 6,000 children in a number of locations. We have 4 locations right now where we work. And what we do is health. And in health, we have peace, medical care for children that need constant medication. We provide that. Those that need surgeries, we refer them to hospitals for surgeries. And those who need things like wheelchairs, walkers, which we call assistive devices, we provide them. We are very strong on nutritional support. And then we do education programs. We want our children to thrive in schools as well. So we have our own schools, but we work with other inclusive schools where our children can go to school. And we also have vocational training centers for those who cannot fit in mainstream. Then we do family empowerment because, as I told you, there is a lot of stigma, shame, and blame attached to disability. So we bring parents together into a community where they can get psychosocial support and find solutions for their challenges by themselves together with parents. And we also do capacity building for young professionals who want to work in this field. Recently, we've also started mentoring people who want to create organizations like ours. And we also do advocacy and awareness from community level all the way to policy level. So this is Mukisa.
Wow, interesting. I mean, really, every time I listen to such stories, I get more inspired. I feel like, wow, this is amazing. 6,000 children with special needs. That is really not a mean statement. You've done great, and we are so appreciative of people like you. You've mentioned something around stigma, misconceptions. So what are some of those that surround children with special needs in Uganda, and how do these affect their inclusion in?
Yeah, so the biggest myth actually is that, and actually I was telling someone this morning that it's biblical even, where they say a wise son makes his father proud of him, and one that is not so wise brings his mother shame. And one of the myths that surround disability is that it's usually the woman's fault. So because people believe it's the woman's fault, so the woman must have done something wrong. The woman did not take her medication. The woman had so many abortions. Some say she's been taking a lot of family planning pills. You know, all those misconceptions cause the woman a lot of grief and lead to a lot of blame and shame, and also leads to family breakup because the fathers will walk away and that child does not belong to my family. The other one I already mentioned is that it's witchcraft, that it's punishment for sin, that sacrificed your child in exchange for wealth. In Uganda, they say you went to the lake, whatever water body you go to, you go over there and sacrifice your child, and in return, you get a lot of money. So these are some of the misconceptions. And the other one actually, which is also very detrimental, is that disabilities are infectious. So most people believe if you have a disability, then, or if someone has a disability and you hang around them, you play with them, or even just as a sibling for a child with disabilities, if you play with other children, then you're going to spread the disability, or it's bad omen that is also going to catch the other families that are around you if they help you, if they associate with you. So these things then lead to social exclusion of the entire family, or will lead to the family themselves trying to hide this child and not access services for them at an early age. And another thing, these misconceptions also lead to family. If the family doesn't break up, then they'll try to fix the child. Actually, another misconception is that these disabilities are curable. Usually, most of the conditions that cause disability are permanent, non-reversible, but we can do things to make the child live to their full potential. We can use other means to help them. So because people think you can fix the child, they spend a lot of money and time with faith healers in churches or shrines or mosques, or they will even go and seek extensive medical attention from people who are actually lying in other countries where they sell everything they own to cure their child. So these misconceptions actually do a lot of harm and cause the child to be neglected, to be abused, and the families to break up.
Oh dear, I can hear you. I can hear you. Where people think somebody has gone under the sea to get all that coming to their family. So it's very, very disheartening to hear that the society has not yet appreciated, how this to be. So with that, then, kindly describe the current situation for children with special needs in Uganda. What are some of the challenges they go through and their families face, in addition to what crime?
Okay, so the biggest one is access to services. So, we are doing a lot of awareness and telling people your child is not cursed, your child is a blessing, please bring them out. Then people are listening and bringing them out and going to hospitals that are not ready for them. So many hospitals say are not ready to receive children with disabilities because they don't have the skill sets required. And even some of our medical professionals do not know what to do with the children. So you say, for example, if a child goes with, say, a condition like cerebral palsy, goes to a hospital for a malaria test, they'll tell them, no, you need to go and do a CT scan because your child has a disability. They forget that even with a disability, you can get other medical conditions. And then sometimes some of these medical facilities are also shut down to these people because, say, for example, if a person needs sign language, if a person needs a ramp to get into the hospital, some of them are storied buildings where someone cannot get to if you're not able to walk but independently. Then sometimes they don't even have the medicines that you need. And yeah, so one of them is really a barrier of access to quality services. And it's majorly within the personnel, but also within the structure. And then the other one, again, is access to schools, access to education. Many of our children with special needs cannot access mainstream schools because of the misconceptions that we talked about before. Schools are not opening up to take them on because they feel that if they take on this child with disabilities, they'll lose their other children in the school. So they're not opening up for them. But even those that do take them on will take them on because they want the money, and they'll just mind the kids and not teach them anything, let them roam around the compound or leave them in a room without any help. And at the end of the day, send them home. And eventually, when these children are finished going to do like their government exams, like primary 7, then they will say, sorry, your child cannot do exams because they are not fit, but they have taken this parents' money for 7 years without adequately equipping their child. So access to services is a very, very, very big issue. And then so for example, other things are very expensive, like wheelchairs are so costly and other devices. But again, also the people to fit the children in the appropriate chair are very, very few. When I was explaining, I said I did a course which is basic, intermediate, and advanced seating. Nobody should be fitting a child in a wheelchair unless they have that knowledge. But in Uganda, everybody can do it. So people just distribute wheelchairs like sweets. They line up the people and they just say, sit in that one. And these wrongfully given out devices also cause secondary disabilities for the children. Or for example, if a child has a hearing aid that is not well tuned, that is not well maintained, then it will cause secondary disabilities in their hearing. And back to education also, our curriculum is not friendly and is not conducive for persons with disabilities to thrive because it's very academic, it's very traditional, and also the assessments are very, very one size fits all. All of them have to do the same exam, all of them are graded the same way, causing persons with disabilities to be on the outside. The other challenge, again, is in terms of cost, because even the quality services that are available usually are very expensive. Parents cannot afford them. Most of them are single parents without additional income. So it becomes very difficult. for them to afford them. So these, I think, are some of the biggest challenges. Then also the fact that there is no clear plan for them in the country. So for example, we say we want inclusive education, but there is no clear plan of how it's going to happen. How is it going to be enabled? There is no social structure. For example, in other countries, if you have a child with disabilities, you'll get a stipend by government to make sure that you can look after this child's adverse needs. We don't have that in this country. And yeah, there is no support in terms of social supports in general as a country. So these things, again, compound the things that I told you about and the myths that surround them, because then these children do not thrive, which compounds the myth that people with disabilities cannot amount to anything good. They should just remain beggars or persons to be pitied.
Yes, I hear you very, very loud and clear. So with that then, what specific programs does Mukisa Foundation run for the special needs children in Uganda, and who are your main stakeholders or collaborators in this?
Yes, so Mukisa Foundation, we along the way have refined our model, which is what we call our 360 child-centered model. We have learned over the years that a child to thrive, if they have a disability, they need good health care. So we provide all health services, as I said, therapy, medical care, nutrition, assistive devices. We train the parents to do the same at home. We empower the parents to be able to do these things like therapies at home, assess the child's progress by themselves, assess that their assistive device is in working order. So that is one of the things that we provide. The second component of our 360 model is education. We provide from accelerated learning, which we call catch-up education, because usually, Dr. Joyce, many children with disabilities will not go to school at the normal age of 3. At that time, the child is still in intensive therapy, trying to learn how to sit, trying to learn how to grip a pen, to even just use their hands. So they spend a lot of time in medical care and therapy. Therefore, by the time they have kind of caught up with their developmental milestones, they're too old to fit in kindergarten. They're too old to fit in the lower classes. So what we do in our school is accelerated learning, teach them self-care skills, teach them things that will help them be a bit more independent in school, continue with the therapy, but as well do numeracy and literacy and other educational programs for them so that they can fit into school. So that is our catch-up education. Then we also have, after catch-up education, we have vocational skilling. So we have 2 centers. One is on Busi Island and one is in Kampala, where we do vocational skilling, but our vocational skilling actually starts with self-care, because many of our children may never have taught how to brush, how to dress, how to bathe themselves. So we do those soft skills as well as interaction with other people, protecting themselves from abuse, and then we teach them a skill. And at the end of the skilling program, which is 3 years, in the last 6 months, we also bring a parent or a guardian or someone in the family to learn the same skill so that they can help supervise it when the child has graduated. Our children get DIT certification, which is a national vocational certificate from the government of Uganda, which also builds their esteem to know that they also have a certificate in the house like any other child. And then we do capacity building of professionals. These are therapists, these are doctors, these are nurses, these are teachers. Anyone who works with children, we equip them with skills as well as knowledge to work on these children well, because we know that in most of the centers and most of the services provided there's a lot of tokenism, just offering them whatever, everything goes. So we would like that people who are providing services provide quality care, because we want our children to thrive. The other one is family empowerment, which is very big, because these children will always be dependent on the social fabric that is around them. So we work with parents, we work with the siblings, we work with the grandparents, we work with everybody that surrounds this child to, one, understand the causes why this child is the way she is or he is. And then we also help them understand what to do, how they can support their child, and in turn help them to advocate in the community for their child so that they are no longer shamed, they are no longer feeling to blame. And we also help them model the right behavior that they want people to associate with their child. So for example, If you want your child to be accepted, you need to accept them first. You need to show them love. You need to make sure that your child is well dressed in the community. Your child is participating in household things so that people can see them, like even parties and all that. And this helps the parents and also helps the community to accept and embrace the child. The other thing about family empowerment is economic empowerment. Many of our parents are desperately poor without a source of income. So we do training in skills like tailoring, like farming, like hairdressing. And then afterwards, we give them starter packs to start their own businesses. We bring in people, business developers, to help them understand the whole journey of entrepreneurship. And ours is very basic. What is capital? What is profit? Well, you know, those basic things that usually are lacking in small businesses in the country. And then lastly is advocacy and awareness. That one we, as I said, we advocate from community level all the way to policy level. We speak to people in power about, say right now we are doing a lot with the education curriculum. We also do a lot with policies that are not being implemented. So we talk about policy formulation, but also policy implementation. And also we advocate for bigger budgets, you know, things like that. So that's our 360 model. And we do it in all these different locations. Every location we go into, we make sure that all these components are covered.
Amazing. The 360 model is intense, touches the children, but also supports the entire family, the parents. So great work there. Then, I mean, the first time I met you was at an annual conference of Stigo, and I saw you being awarded. So that stamps the impact you're creating and the success stories around your work. So I would like you to share with the listeners, what are some of your success stories that are critical and significant to your journey, and how do you measure that impact?
Success stories. We have so many success stories, but I think for me, as I said, every child is an individual. We look at every child as an individual and the little progress that they make. Some of them make a lot of progress. So for example, right now we have children who started with us many years ago and are now employed or are in university, children that would never have gotten this opportunity if they didn't go through our intense programs of healthcare, intense programs of surgeries. I have a girl right now who has just joined law school and she had like 7 operations throughout her life in order for her to be able to stand straight. So you see children like that who are thriving, who would never had that opportunity. And I get very thankful that we are part of their story. And then we see parents who had abandoned their children and had walked away, come back and embrace them and then advocate for them and protect them and work with them. That is also a very, very big part of what we do. We'd like to see that every child is in a family that is resilient, that is accepting, and the children belong. And most of our stories around that. But actually, the other one is that we are still here. Dr. Joyce, you know about NGOs and how they thrive and how many close every day, or even businesses in Uganda. So seeing that we are here 18 years down the road and we started with no budget, with no money, but we've grown to this size of multiple centers and all that, I feel like we have been very blessed, and we see that the opportunity to reach more people is a result of that. And that's also, in a way, kind of our impact, that we started with nothing and people have joined us on the journey. So yeah, we have the medical professions, we have the teachers, we have government in many forms. Right now, we have this gift that is called the village health workers. Those are actually right now we're doing a lot of mentoring for them because they go in community and help us identify children. And then, of course, another key stakeholder is the funders. And we have a number of people who have joined us. As I said, it was a dream with no money, a one-woman show. And now we have about 73 staff members, all paid staff. And this is a result of funders coming on board to join our vision and make sure that it thrives. So yeah, those are the major ones. And then also other organizations that are doing similar work. These have made our work easy. So for example, if a child is abandoned, our organization is not residential. So if a child is abandoned, we'll call up another organization that is doing residential care who will keep them for some time. If we need an operation, we work with hospitals like COSU, like pure hospital like Mulago to make sure that our children receive the services they need. So yeah, other service providers, in NGOs and institutions have been very key in making our work successful.
Amazing. So that is a very big success because really you being able to take care of 73 employees fully paid. I think your government needs to give you a very big hand clap and including myself to that. Thank you so much. So I would like you to move us forward. What is your vision for the future in terms of creating a more inclusive and supporting environment for the children with special needs in Uganda? How do you see Mukisa Foundation moving forward?
Okay, so the biggest thing that I've learned over the years now is that Ugandans, when they see something good, they will replicate it. And so my vision is to create centers of excellence. We are already now have an inclusive school, which is a model center. We have a vocational training center, which we are also building to the standards of to be a model center of excellence for vocational skilling. We have therapy centers that are model, which we are also building up to be a model center for therapy and medical services. And all these things we're doing because we want people to replicate this in the many different places where they are at. So would our scaling model really is about making sure that people can see what we are doing and can come and learn from us and then do similar work. We would like to see that every child in Uganda with a disability gets at least one intervention. I say we've worked with 6,000 children, but there are millions more that haven't had an intervention. So what we'd like to see is every child in this country gets an intervention. And the way we want to see that happen is to make sure that the professionals are well skilled and that the visionaries know what they're getting into and how to get into it and do it properly. So our role, I feel like, is evolving to be technical leaders where or the technical leads or technical support where we can train other people and also help them use our model to do similar work as we're doing right now. So our vision for this country is to see children with disability thriving. They have access to services. They're achieving their full potential in whatever form God created them to have it, and also to be able to get the right accommodation. So for example, if a child has finished P7, then there should be the right accommodations with the government, with the schools to make sure that they sit their exams and pass them. So things like that. So we'd like to see an inclusive society, and the way we are seeing it happen is for us to model best practices and to spread best practices in the best way we can to make sure that it happens.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. So in that regards, what role do government policies and frameworks play in creating this enabling environment? And how do you participate as Mukisa Foundation in the policy formulation around this?
Yeah. What we do as an organization, we've strategically positioned ourselves to fill knowledge gaps in terms of everything that's surrounding children with disabilities. So we are usually asked to be on technical working groups. So in the Ministry of Health, in the Ministry of Education, we do those things so that we can make sure that we can influence formulation. We can add our voice to what we are seeing in the community happening. But we don't do it alone. We make sure that we bring other stakeholders, other organizations that are speaking the same language to join us, and we advocate together. So for example, right now we are advocating for a policy change in terms of taxation for assistive devices, and we are joined by all entities that are working with children with disabilities in Uganda, but also even those who are working across East Africa. So we make sure that we rally people around us so that we can do that together. And yes, and then we even invite like members of parliament, go to their technical working groups and also show them what we are doing in our own centers so that they can have a clear understanding. Because some of the people in this country, it's not that they don't want to do anything, it's because they don't know what they need to do. So showing them what it is that should be happening also helps with an understanding of what policies need to be changed or what policies need to be enforced, what policies need to be revised. We advocated for integrated early childhood policy. That one is also coming slowly coming go along, and we hope that that will work. We created with a group of other people a screening tool, which teachers, which people in the community can use when they see a child with disability. They just look at our screening tool, which has 21 questions, and then they go ahead and screen the child. And then after the screening, they can refer. So these are some of the things that we have been part of and we will continue to be part of as an organization.
Wow, interesting. So that means you are engaged in policy. There's a lot of collaboration because a policy can't happen by one organization. So I totally agree with you. So I've listened in, the impact you're causing is real, it's massive. And we know that NGOs are totally challenged, and that's why sometimes we always push for social enterprise business model. So how do you intend to make your work sustainable amidst the current challenges?
Yes. So when we started out, it was all passion with very little thought of how are we going to survive? How are we going to be sustainable? But as you rightfully say, once you get into the space, you realize that you can't rely only on donor funding. So we are slowly introducing things like, so for example, our education programs, we have a subsidized rate that our parents contribute towards the program. It's no longer 100% free as it was for maybe about 12 years. So the parents make a contribution to that. We are also now being more intentional about the technical support we provide. We are also attaching a fee to it so that, say, for example, if you called us to train your staff on inclusion, maybe there will be a fee attached, and this funding will go into a separate box, which will help us on a rainy day, or if we wanted to expand or do some other things. Our medical center, while the services are free for many, there are people in the community who can come and access our services. So they're not only for children with disabilities, they're also for the community. We make sure that they're the highest level of quality that anyone else can access them. So our education system, so our schools, people can attend, other children without disabilities can also attend. And when they attend, they can pay for the service. So slowly we are bringing in a pricing model which can help us turn away from what you'd call traditional charity to more of social enterprise. We make devices. So for example, we make walkers, standers, all these things. We have a workshop where we make them. And for some of the children, they're absolutely free. So we have a tier system where we say, if you cannot afford, then it's absolutely free. But if you can afford 50%, then you'll pay that percentage. So we have a social work team that helps us with that. And the goal of that is to make sure that we are not relying only on donations, but we can also do locally generated income. And eventually, hopefully, we can become sustainable. So on the island, Dr. Joyce, now this is an advert to you. We have a recreation facility where you can bring the entire family to either camp or to just spend some time. We are building bandas and wonderful chalets, and we are providing good service in terms of in hospitality. You will be served by some of our older children that have disabilities with the help of those that don't have disabilities from the community. And you'll have a wonderful experience on Busi Island. But at the end of the day, you'd have to pay for the service. And this, again, goes into our approach towards sustainability.
Amazing. Now you're talking, I totally relate with social entrepreneurship and also building programs that really impact communities, but at the same time, we are using entrepreneurship approaches. When you're talking, I could see quite a lot of corporations, SMEs that may want to take their staff for team building activities, retreats that are affordable, but also with impact as you do. So that is also another space to think about. So I love that. Thank you so much. So how can listeners get involved or at least support your efforts to create an enabling environment for children with special needs? Is there any?
Yes. Our call to action would be, whatever you need to do, you have to come from a point of understanding. So I'll just want to say, take time to understand. Take time to know about these conditions that are around us, conditions that are causing disabilities among our children. If you want to learn, you can come to us. We are very, very free with our knowledge. And then once you have learned, then you can do something like starting with your own community. I'm sure there are people with children with disabilities there that may need support, or you could be the signpost that sends them our way to get support. That is also a very big deal. But if you wanted to do something different, like support the work, if we are always collecting things like food, medication, clothing, all those kinds of things, you could do a drive and then bring staff to the organization. And as I said, I love collaboration. So in the event that people bring things to us, they don't remain only with Mukisa, they also go to our other organizations that work with children with disabilities. So for example, we go out to Karamoja, we go to Eastern Uganda, we go all over the place. And whenever we go, these are the kind of things that we take with us to support those other establishments to enable them also provide a good service. And then if you're in positions of decision making, please intentionally hire some people in your centers, in organizations that have disabilities, because once we have persons with disabilities mainstreamed into our workplaces, it will stop being so scary. It will stop being very mythical. People will start seeing that, oh, I know someone with disability who is doing a great job, say, in this organization. And as a result, people will lose the stigma, will lose the fear on disabilities. Yes, I think those are some of the things that we can start with.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. So, dear listeners, point out from what Florence has mentioned, we need to ensure that there's that inclusive environment at our workplaces and in the different spaces where we play. Thank you. So, Florence, how do you define success?
Miley happy child. Parent who has moved from feeling sorry for themselves and feeling like they're the only ones and feeling like they're being punished to a point where they are accepting of their child and wanting to do something about them. So for me, the micro level, that for me is success. One child at a time, their lives turned the right side up. Child thriving, that is for me the biggest definition of success. Then on a bigger level is, I think, even seeing us as an organization change from one level to the next, providing better services, reaching more children. Basically, I think to put it in another way, is growth. For me, success is not remaining the same. If every single day you can add something different to your own life, that is success. And that is the same for the organization. That is the same for me as an individual. I make sure that I push and learn something new and collaborate differently and do things differently, try out new things. Yeah, I believe for me that is success.
Thank you. Thank you very much. What is the most important lesson you've learned over your Mukisa Foundation journey?
I think the biggest one is not to sympathize, but to empathize. Because when I started out, I was full of sympathy. Bambi, these people, oh my goodness, they're suffering. So let me just do everything for them. And as a result, we had a whole, I think the first 500 children that we worked with, we disempowered the families very, very badly. We made them 100% reliant on us. I can tell you parents would call me at 2 a.m. and say, your child is sick, they need to go to hospital, And I realized that I was operating from sympathy, not empathy. And I think now the biggest lesson is no matter what someone is going through, you should help them find a solution and help them, have a role to play in their own situation so that you do not make them dependent on you. Because when you make someone dependent on you, you're making yourself like a savior for them. And we are not called to be saviors. We are called to be enablers, facilitators of change and progress. And that's, I think for me, that is the biggest lesson for me. So whoever I work with, our parents, our children, I want them to thrive as individuals and to be proud of themselves that they are changing. They're doing something to change their situation.
Amazing, amazing. Wow. Great lesson here for all of us in this journey as we build in different spaces. So we've learned, we've listened, and this wraps up another enlightening episode of the Social Entrepreneurship in Africa, where we've had very, very inspiring conversations with Florence Namaganda, as inspiring as we did. The focus was on creating an enabling environment for children with special needs in Uganda. Please look out for Mukisa Foundation. They are on social media. They have a website. Let's join them in this conversation. Let's support them. Let's collaborate them, and let's network to ensure that we reach very many children with disability in a very sustainable way. Please don't forget to follow Capital Solutions on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, all at Capital Solutions, to stay updated on future episodes and more of what we do around social entrepreneurship, and also keeping and making a positive impact in Africa at large. I would like to thank you, dear listeners, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode.